Hi teachers. In this video, we're going to look at what a student portfolio account looks like in Classkick. So the first thing I wanted to make sure to cover though is that a lot of times students or teachers get confused about the difference between portfolio and pro. So Classkick Pro teachers, so teachers who have purchased Classkick, have access to student portfolio accounts, but that does not mean that student accounts are automatically portfolio. Um, a, a pro teacher actually could have students with either basic or portfolio accounts. So I do have some videos on how to help students create portfolio accounts, but it's important to know that it's not automatic. So once your students have a portfolio account, you can have them log in, and when they are logging in, they'll have to log in with a username and also a password. So I'm going to go ahead and log into one of my pretend portfolio accounts that I use with my students. I'm going to go ahead and log in with this one. What you can notice is that the passwords can be super short, even like just 1 digit long. They also don't have to have an email. It can just be a very simple username. Okay, so let's go ahead and log in. So this is what a portfolio account looks like. So the students will have access to multiple different assignments, every assignment that is assigned to their roster. Now, it's important to notice that, especially the more assignments that you have, it's going to be important to have some type of organizational system. So the way that I do it in my class is that I use a numbering system using like the number of the unit and then some additional information. Since I know for this year I'm going to have more than 10 units or 9 units, I made sure to number them 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8. They switched my courses in the middle of the year, which is why I started with unit 6. Um, but having some type of organizational system will help your students find the materials much more quickly. Also, if there's something that I'm going to ask them to use very frequently, perhaps every day, I will put it in there with an underscore so that it keeps it at the top. So for example, my students look at announcements every day. It tells them what they're supposed to be doing, and then they'll go and just find those different assignments. Also, I keep a page of just useful websites that we use in my class, and so that also helps them to find those things pretty quickly. So notice that with their assignments that they'll be able to potentially see if they have feedback on a page or what their grade is. Those options they can see only if they've actually opened the assignment before. So you can notice here that some of these assignments the student has not viewed yet, which is why they have a green dot. So sometimes I'll just tell my students to look for assignments that have a green dot as far as what they have not opened yet. Of course, they just have to open it once and then that green dot will go away. So they also are able to see if they have feedback on a page. So for example, if I were to click here, it would say which slides that I have feedback on. And if you click on it directly, it'll take you even directly to that slide where they were supposed to go. So that's super handy way for them to make sure that they're going back and seeing all the different feedback that you have for them. Notice that it will display their grade for assignments where you have grades toggled on. So if grades are not toggled on, it will not show this portion. The last thing about this viewpoint I also wanted to show you is that there is an old work folder. So not all students have an old work folder. This folder is created when the teacher unassigns the student or the roster from the work. So like within an assignment, if you were to remove the roster, any student that had actually already opened that work would have their work, whatever that they did, would then transfer over to an old work folder. The same thing happens if a student is removed from a roster. So if you have a student that was in your first period class and then they were moved to your second period class, if you remove their account from first period, the student will still have access to that work. It'll just go in this old work folder. Um, if you do not want a student to have access to those files, you would need to hide it before removing them from the roster. Of course, you can't hide it individually per student. It's just either all students on the roster have it hidden or not. All right, two more things um, to know. So, well, is that you can also have students search for assignments up here. Um, so that's another way that they can easily locate material as much as they can also change the way that things are displayed. So they can kind of sort them based off of other either grades or the assignment name. And finally, if you have a student that you wanted to add to a second roster, so like if you had a math teacher and also a science teacher that was using Classkick, they are allowed to be on more than one roster. So what you would do is you would get the class code from that new class, and you would have just a student press the plus button. They would enter that code any um, for any of the assignments that's on that new roster, and then they would go ahead and submit that. That would take them directly into the assignment that went with that code. However, when they returned back to their portfolio account, they would now have be on more than one roster. So it would say the teacher's name and then whatever the teacher named that roster. So they would actually have multiple rosters. Um, some teachers actually use this to create folders on the student side because any of those folders that you see as a teacher on your side, the student actually does not see. But you could create different rosters like Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and have the students add each of those rosters so that they would have additional organization on their side. All right, well, hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.